This is an FK2 Honda Civic Type R, and to be honest, I'm really quite excited about this one. I've had EP3s, FN2s, but I've never even sat in the driver's seat of one of these later turbocharged cars. So from a selfish point of view, really quite excited about this one. From your point of view, I'm going to cover all the common faults, all the things that tend to go wrong to help you get a good car. So stick around. Let's go. So let's kick off by talking about the spec. What you want to do is make sure the car you're looking at has got the GT pack fitted, because it comes with a whole raft of extras. Actually, when it comes to cars without the GT pack, they were really quite rare because it wasn't that expensive from the factory and you just got so much extra value in the car. The GT pack consisted of automatic lights and wipers, you got dual zone climate control, you got parking sensors, you got a sat nav, you got the Honda Connect infotainment system, and you even got a better stereo as well. And breathe, so it's well worth it. So reliability wise, it's a Honda at the end of the day, isn't it? However, having said that, there are a few really quite big issues you need to be aware of, so listen carefully. First up is the head gasket. Now this affected mainly the 2015 model year cars. They fitted a weaker head gasket on them and they can be known to have problems. Now symptom wise, what you want to look for there is a bit of hesitation when the car's starting from cold, and also if it's bellowing smoke or condensation out the back, then those are two sure signs to walk away from that car. Now if you do end up buying one and it's got head gasket issues, that head's going to need to come off, it's going to need to get skimmed, and a new head gasket is going to need to go in. So a really labour intensive job we don't want for you buying a new car. So just like Type R's of past, these use a timing chain rather than a belt as well. However, be warned, it's not a completely maintenance free item. Usually cars coming up to around about the 100,000 mile mark, or those cars that have led a particularly hard life, maybe on track, can tend to have issues with the chain. It can stretch. So again, on cold start, listen out for a distinct rattle coming from the engine. Next up, bodywork. Now there's really nothing too bad to pick on. Certainly the cars are quite new for considering things like corrosion and such, so we don't need to worry about that an awful lot. One thing to be aware of, however, is Honda was quite criticised and have been for a few years for having quite thin paint. So it is quite common that you're going to find some stone chips on the front end if the car's got a few miles on it. The main thing we're looking for is, given that it is a performance orientated car, it's a hot hatch, we want to make sure everything is nice and straight and there's no horrible evidence of any crash damage. So we want to look at things like the shut lines, we want to make sure there's no bad colour matches, and just give the bodywork a general good going over. On the wheel front, these were known when the cars were new to need exchanging. There was a few exchanged out by Honda due to corrosion bubbling underneath the paint. So again, go around and, as you usually would, pay attention to anything that doesn't look quite right on the wheels. If you do find anything, not the end of the world, but make sure you bring that into the negotiation with the seller. Next check, we're going to want to open the boot up here, or trunk, depending where you're watching from. Place one hand on the spoiler, bring a friend along, and have them rock the car. And what we're doing there is making sure that no water has found its way into the wing. What happens is it tends to get in, but can't get back out, and you'll hear it and feel it slosh about in there. Now, if that is the case, again, bring it into the negotiation, save yourself some money, then ask me how to fix it for free. You definitely don't want to miss this problem. However, before we get on to it, a favour ask from you guys. Now, we're waging war against dodgy sellers who try and cover up faults and sell you bad cars. If you want to support us with this, best thing you can do is hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss a video. Anyway, gearboxes. A bit hit or miss, to be honest. Some have been absolutely fine in these cars. Some have failed catastrophically, so you need to be careful when it comes to the gearbox checks. Now, in terms of what to look for, I'll remind you of this when we're out on that test drive, but ensure that it's going into all gears cleanly, particularly at high RPMs. Make sure it's not crunching, suggesting that the synchros are maybe warm, and also, this would be a really obvious one to spot, but make sure each gear can be engaged. Make sure it's not locking any of them out. The final thing to mention before we get out in that test drive, again, is nothing that's too specific to the Type R, but it's just a good idea in general to have a look at. What we want to do is make sure that the wear on the interior tallies to the mileage that the car has. Now, these heavily bolstered seats can take a bit of wear, so ensure it's all in the condition that you would expect. Let's hit the road. The bit you've been waiting for, getting the car out on the road and enjoying it. But remember, this is a car we're looking to buy, so we want to concentrate. We don't want to get too carried away having fun, although we can't really help it, admittedly. Now, as we get the car up to temperature, have a listen out to all those suspension components. Now, there's nothing really specific to the Type R that you're listening out for, but again, just in general, we want to make sure we're not buying a car with tired bushes or ball joints or anything like that. If we can pick up on it now, bring it into the negotiation, it's going to save us money. Car's such a treat to drive. And again, what should you be feeling in that drive? Well, this one I can certainly say it's not like the Type R's of old. There's a lot of torque there. It still wants to rev out, but you've got tons of torque, particularly with that R mode turned on. Now, chassis-wise, really, really sharp. No untoward noises coming from this car, and yeah, you turn that steering wheel, it's really changing direction quickly. Now, one thing I would also like to highlight is that as we're going along here, torque steer is absolutely minimal. I mean, we're doing 30 mile an hour if I plant it. I don't even need to try and hold that wheel straight. So again, if you're looking at a car and it's veering about the road, again, that could suggest there's something else at play there, because these cars really do handle the power well. We also have a really good heater, which I'm going to turn down. Now, something else I'll throw in here as well, guys, is if you'd like to see more of this car, maybe a little bit more of a personal video where we go over the modifications done to the car, maybe talk a bit more about the drive rather than a buyer's guide, be sure to let us know in the comments below and we can sort something out. There we go, guys, just like that, you've got all the tips you need to go off and find yourself the perfect Type R. Now, if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments section below. But for now, we're off to have some fun.